Hey there, welcome to Find Your Sunne. I'm Cass.
And I'm Mare.
Join us as we find our sun through movement, nourishment, and well-being.
Awakened through the power of play. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, Sun Seekers. Today we have a special episode as we reflect on deeply personal experience, one that brings together themes of resilience and community and finding light even in the darkest of times. I'm Cassie, and joining me is my amazing co-host Meredith, who is going to share a bit about her hometown of Elizabethton in Tennessee, which was recently impacted by Hurricane Helene, unfortunately. So, yeah.
You know, we're getting ready for this episode today, and really trying to figure out what we wanted to talk about and what we wanted to share. And this is something that both of us wanted to talk about because we both just experienced such a wonderful time in Asheville, North Carolina. So, thanks, Cass, that you were willing to talk about something so near and dear. So
of course.
It's been a really wild and tough week. And while I currently live in Florida, where the hurricane made its first landfall, my heart has been really, 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 really heavy with what is happening in Elizabethton and the surrounding mountain towns. It's just been devastating, and seeing the images and hearing the stories from my family and friends, and it has just been really surreal. It's a place that has shaped so much of who I am, and it's heartbreaking to witness this devastation. And I feel like I'm kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating, places that you probably went to as a child and planned to bring your kids to are now gone.
They just look totally different. And I actually was on social media, and I saw one of my really good friends. He was working in the church that I went to when I was in high school, and I just saw mud it's just caked onto the wall all over the floors. Like, it just wasn't the same. And to think of it from that sense, like, it just kind of makes you process. And I mean, that's the aftermath.
Well,
but what was actually happening was even more devastating.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to understand what people are going through unless you're actually there. But I think it's important to have the empathy because it's been so devastating for people. It's ruined people's lives. I think about
Displaced.
the Uber drivers that I met that week and how they're doing because that was their home. The community is just so engrossed with small business, and the people that lived there had this profound gratitude towards the community that they had built. Like this community in Asheville, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking about Asheville because that's what I've seen. I haven't been to Elizabethton, but oh my gosh, it was all small business.
Yeah, and you could see that they had poured their hearts into everything that they did.
Yeah.
Like the community just felt so strong, so vibrant, so restored.
Yeah. And
I was inspired there.
Oh, me too. Like there was little tiny shops, coffee shops, breweries. The food scene was amazing. And to just think that all of that is gone is just like mine. Like I can't even, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, to be honest.
And I'm still like, and here's the thing is that we have this, like, I think that I saw this building that I was driving by, but I'm not 100% sure that it was that building. But even to process, like, seeing the homes just, I guess, not even standing anymore. But and then the highway, the I-40, like actually being sucked down into the power of the water Yeah. And knowing how that affects logistics and how people get from here to there. And
not only that, how they have basic living, like
needs, necessities.
Yeah. Like water, you know? Yeah. I mean,
so we're not there. We're not there. We're watching from afar.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also something that's really hard when we're watching from afar, because there's so much that you want to do. Mm-hmm. But you have this life that you have going on right here. So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. And I mean, donate.
Mm-hmm.
And just have that empathy and make it apparent. Like, I feel like I really wish that our country would step in and help these people more. Like, a $750 grocery stipend is just not enough for people to be able to keep living. Like, they need a roof over their heads.
Yeah. Shelter is very, very important, right?
Not everybody has the means to just go into a hotel, you know?
No. And a lot of Florida has experienced devastation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Often. Like, right. They kind of know exactly how to operate when it comes to these devastating events.
Right.
This is like one of those unexpected events that you couldn't see coming, because you just don't even imagine that it's possible, you know?
No, who would have thought that the hurricane would affect Asheville so much? Like, I would have never thought that it would go that far inland.
Yeah.
You know?
Upland. Yeah.
Inland, upland, inland and upland. But yeah. I mean, I guess what is inspiring, though, is how people have come together in Asheville, helping neighbors, strangers, stepping up to rescue those in need. The compassion and courage that it took to actually go there that we're seeing is an inspiration and a reminder of the strength that lies within community. You know, I mean, you were telling me that people were flying their own helicopters over to Asheville.
Yeah. I think it was my husband that shared this with me, that they were flying their own aircraft in order to be able to help.
That's amazing.
I think that has been put to a halt, though, is what, to my understanding.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I know, because how do you, now we need something greater to step in and help, right?
And today we want to take you through this experience, share some of the stories that have emerged, and reflect on how we all can find our sun in the midst of such chaos and destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. My mom had a trip planned actually last week. She was supposed to visit on the day that Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida. And, I went to sleep that night, like, fearing that what may come to my own home. But then I woke up to the devastation happening in my own hometown and surrounding mountain cities. So we'll also touch on the experiences that shape us and explore the metaphor of turning darkness into light.
Oh, Meredith, when you saw the messages, the images, and heard about what was happening back home, what was your immediate reaction?
So I woke up that morning, and I remember I received a message from my mom, and she was just telling me that the river was rising, and I didn't really understand at the time that it was turning into what it was.
Right, into something this big.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, like, it really became real to me, and I understood that this was something that I had fear around. Of what was going to happen, And I think the first reaction after I realized it was shock. I remember I was just like scrolling and trying to get as much information as I could because there was no cell phone service. So when I tried to call my mom, I couldn't get through to her. When we were texting, like the texting was very sparse. And our family farm is right on the river.
Yeah.
Right there. So, and we have these dams. We have the Watauga Dam that floods into that flows into the Watauga River. And that's right where my mom lives. So we were all, really concerned. They had evacuated the area. We have cabins down by the river, and we have campers. And so we have people that are living down there and people that are staying down there. And so knowing that river was essentially taking over so much of the land, it was uncertainty. So, seeing places that I know so well and roads that I've walked and streams that I've played in, just completely devastated. It just didn't feel real to me. And then it, quickly shifted into this overwhelming sense of wanting to do something that I could do to help. And, I just couldn't sit here and feel helpless.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a natural response, right?
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, we want to be there for people and places that have given us so much. I remember you telling me about Elizabethton and the streams and the mountains, the way that the nature there is just so slow and it has this like calming effect and everything. And now nature's unleashed its power in a way and in a completely just devastated.
Yeah.
This
a completely different way, right? Yes, I have always felt like the mountains and the streams had this really profound effect on me. They have this rhythm and this kind of patience, and that's how I grew up, learning that the slow trickle of water could carve its way through the land. It's like life there teaches you resilience, not by resisting change, but by embracing it.
Yeah. And then in this week, those same forces showed their more violent side.
Totally. Yeah, it really did.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of something that I shared with you the other day, how sometimes you just have to sit in the shit for a little bit.
Oh, God. Sit in the shit. Oh, God. That's bad.
Sorry, but it's true. There is a value in just sitting in the shit.
I know. I've been sitting in it for a second.
Yeah. Me too.
I have been sitting in it for a second. And you have all this external stuff that's happening so often, like everything that's happening in the world around us, but there's also so much that's happening inside of us. That it's sometimes it feels like it can be more than you can handle.
Yeah. Yep. That's why we put so much into what community means to us.
Yeah.
And friendship. And being able to lean on to one another when shit gets real and shit gets hard.
Yeah.
Because we're not meant to do it alone.
We're really not. There's value in facing what's real, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's messy.
Definitely.
It's in those moments that we gain clarity, where the darkness forces us, to appreciate the light all the more. For my birthday, my husband got me this really special pendant. It's a scarab beetle. And I have been looking at it for almost a year. Actually, it was a year prior to my birthday, and I resolved that is what I want for my birthday. And the scarab beetle symbolizes something so much more. So I did a little digging, and it turns out that, in the ancient Egyptian culture, the scarab beetle was seen as a symbol of transformation, rebirth, and protection. And the scarab beetle, which is a type of dung beetle. We're going to tie this all together. It's a type of dung beetle that literally rolls balls of dung across the ground. Okay. This little tiny scarab beetle rolls balls of dung across the ground. It's sitting in the shit in its own way. Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Excuse our language again. But in doing so, it's also moving it. It's transforming it. Okay. Egyptians saw this as a metaphor for pushing through life's hardships, for taking what seems like waste or despair and using it to nourish new growth.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
That's inspiring.
This idea that the dark places that we go through, the shit that we sit in, can eventually lead us to something new and something good.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. And that's so powerful. And I love that metaphor. You're so good at that.
Oh my
She's
gosh,
so good at the metaphors.
Beetle.
So the scarab beetle isn't just dealing with the mess. It's actually creating something beneficial out of it. Out of the shit.
It's transforming. Just like the people, in Elizabethton, where there's so much sorrow, the people all over the South right now that are in this devastation.
Yeah.
There's so much sorrow and destruction, but people are already coming together. They're already rebuilding. They're already finding ways to take care of each other. And in that, they're creating new connections, new hope, because this is something that they will never forget. And let me tell you, I went to this event last February where they had this, they called it New Stories, Old Souls. And it was in our old downtown Bonnie Kate Theater. And they had interviewed the minds of people that were making a lasting impact on our small little town. And that I look forward to seeing how they will rebuild in this adversity.
Yeah, because it already sounds like they had so much of that community and connection with each other that hopefully this is something that is able, I know like it's not going to happen overnight, but it's something that they're able to come together with and really even grow a stronger sense of community. So, yeah, I mean, it's a reminder that even when we feel overwhelmed, when we're pushed to our limits, the human spirit has this incredible capacity to preserve and to find light in darkness.
Yeah. And, I really think that that's where Sunne was born. And that's what Find Your Sunne is all about. Always being in the light. It's about choosing to find it, to make it when things are dark. And it really stemmed from this card that I wrote to my mom when I was finding my way through the darkness. I wrote her a letter when I was in San Diego, California, after I just moved back. And I wrote her this invitation, come into the sunshine. And that's how Sunne was born.
Yeah. And I don't ever want our audience or you to think that we should all just have this false sense of like happiness. Like that's not what Find Your Sunne is about. Find Your Sunne is about sitting in the shit too. And then at the end of it, finding this light and this new growth, because honestly, like failures is where growth happens. And so we need to experience these things in order to be able to grow. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think that's really what community is about what I think is going to be the new wave of social media. I believe that we're going to have communities. So I think it's more important than ever that when you feel connected to a community, that you're tagging them or sharing how you're finding your own source of light, even in the darkness.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that this is has the potential to be a really powerful movement.
Yeah. Share the stories that have helped you grow.
Yeah.
You know, because I think when we share those stories about how we've found growth and overcome adversity, that we can inspire others.
Yeah. And then you have this well, like an old school well of water, but you have this knowledge, this wisdom that can run deep within the community.
Meredith, sorry to bring this back, but could you share the stories of Elizabethton, the stories that you've been hearing from Elizabethton, like the way that the people have come together and shown up for each other?
One story that stands out is about this neighbor who literally paddled a kayak through the running water, the flooded streets, to just check on this elderly couple who were stranded. And he didn't think twice about it. He just acted. And then there were these two young women who, instead of evacuating, they went door to door helping people gather what they could, just to secure homes as best as possible before things got really bad.
Wow. It's these small, everyday acts of courage that really restore your faith, isn't it? Like they show us what it means to be human, but not only that, to have the ability to not just take care of yourself, but to take care of others in the midst of a natural disaster, which is like one of the most devastating things somebody can go through.
Totally. Yeah. It's a reminder that we all have a part. We all have a part to play. You know, we all have this opportunity to contribute, and we might not be able to change everything, but we can do something, right? You know, even just reaching out, you know, I think my mom was just was flooded with love and flooded. She was flooded with love from all the people that she cares so deeply about, you know?
Well, not only that, she was just over here. So I was also talking with Meredith's mom, and she is helping people by giving them refuge with their cabins. Cause luckily her cabins weren't affected.
Yeah.
Because they were like up on 4 blocks to prevent flooding. Right.
Yeah. They didn't have, she didn't have to have, or we didn't have flood insurance. Because they built the home up, but the riverbank was able to help protect the land, but that wasn't the case for so many. So, you know, I know there's local food drives right now after the hurricane passed, and, you know, she saw people have just seen a need and they knew that they needed to act. And that's the spirit that I want to carry with me, you know, and seeing the need and knowing that I can do something. And I think we can all take inspiration from that, whether it's supporting our own communities or being there for our families, friends. It's about taking action, no matter how small. Yeah. So what can we do? How can we show up when the world feels heavy?
It can start with something simple like signing a petition or donating to relief efforts, or even just talking about the issues and raising awareness. Because I think that, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this today is because I don't feel that the media has done Asheville and the surrounding areas they've done us a disservice by not making this something that needs to be covered. And especially within the politics, where we're going into an election now, and I'm sure these people aren't really thinking about voting, but they're not even going to be able to, that's impacted because the mailing service has totally stopped there.
Well, and even your facilities of where you're going to go vote.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the logistics.
There's so much.
So we're going to include some links in our show notes to places where you can help with the recovery efforts in Tennessee and North Carolina.
Yeah.
So another way is just to listen, right? People need space to share their stories, to talk about what they've been through, and we're all capable of creating that space.
Yes. Sometimes just being present is the most vulnerable thing we can do. And of course, taking care of ourselves so we can be there for others. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a moment and just breathe. And do what Meredith's always reminding me.
What am I reminding you?
Count to 10, find your center, and then choose your next step and be like water.
That is, count to be like waters.
You gotta go with the flow.
Thanks for tuning in today, Sun Seekers. We hope today's episode gave you something to reflect on and maybe even inspired you to reach out and make a difference, whether in your own life or in someone else's.
And remember, finding your sun doesn't mean always being in the light. Sometimes it's about finding your way through the shadows, carrying that inner light within you, and then keep pushing forward as always. And remember to keep finding your sun, even in the darkest of times.
Until next time, take care and let's keep spreading light.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear from you if you have any stories, especially if you
need
are
help.
impacted from Asheville or anything. We'd love to hear from you and find out ways where we can help. So keep following along and finding your light. We'll see you next week. Just before you go, if you want to sprinkle some love our way without spending a dime, why not hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel? It's like giving us a hug through the internet. So please give that button a little tap and join our Sun family.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you found the discussions enlightening and inspiring. Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only. All opinions expressed here are solely our own and do not reflect the views of any sponsors or affiliate partners.
And before you apply any of the health strategies discussed on the podcast, we recommend consulting with a professional to ensure it is appropriate for your specific circumstances.
Remember, we're here to spark conversation and ideas, not substitute for any professional advice.